All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Kickstart Your Life. I'm your host, Marc T May. I tell you, we've been having some weird technical difficulties today, but I am here. I am live, and I'm ready to inspire you, motivate you to kickstart your life. I tell you, earlier today, while we're getting ready for the earlier today, I recorded an entire podcast. And when I played it back, it was all gobbledygook. It was a big mess. But I was able to pull it down and I re-recorded it. And so I want to encourage you to follow us with our podcast. We are anywhere you can find podcasts right now. I think the whatever the mega tags are, you're able to pull it up if you Google. But if you go to Spreaker, we are on Spreaker. We are Apple Podcasts. We're at Google. We're everywhere you get your podcast. But it's taken a little while for it to get into the search engine. So if you go directly to those particular sites, you are able to pull me up with just a little bit of a search. All right, let me turn these phones off and get rid of all that interference. What's going on? I love doing this broadcast because you get the live audience, you get a little bit of interaction back and forth. I want to give you a motivational moment, so this won't be very long. But I was asking the question when I was doing the other broadcast. I was asking the question, and this came to mind about how valuable are you? How valuable are you? And when I'm talking about value and asking how valuable are you, I'm not talking about you as a person, as in your life, because all life is valuable. But I'm referring to you in respect of your career, your employment, your work, along those lines, your business. How valuable are you? Let me say it again. How valuable are you? Have you ever thought about what is your value? I don't talk to a lot of people and they say, hey, I want to make more money. They want to make more money. But are you willing to do the things that will cause you to be able to make more money? And that was part of the podcast that I sent out this morning. The power of being prepared. So, how much effort and energy are you willing to put in to increase your personal value? So, let me ask this question as well. Have you appraised yourself properly? Have you appraised yourself accurately? What do I mean by that? Have you appraised your skills, your education, your experience? Have you appraised it properly or accurately so that you could equate what is your actual value? Now, when we define value, and those of you that follow me know I love words. I love to have the definitions of words. Value, a fair return in goods, service, or money for something exchanged. And it also means, what is your worth in money? So in this context, what is your worth in salary? If you're a business person, if you're an entrepreneur, what are your services worth? What is the value of your service? I remember years ago, I was in the pest control business. I started a pest control business not too long after I got married. And my company was called Crack and Crevice Exterminating Company. And what I had done at that time, I had worked for a particular company. And I was working so hard. I said to myself, if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to work this hard for myself. So what did I do? I had to find out what it was that was required of me to be able to operate my own business in that particular field. And so I had to take an exam. I had to get insurance. I had to get equipment. So there were a lot of things that were involved in that. Now, back to the original question. How valuable are you? And so when I began to put the business together, what I began to do at that time, I read a lot of the trade books, trade magazines. What I began to do is I began to find my niche in the business. And I would take the best things from the things that I've read and even from the company in whom I once was employed. And I put it together. And at that time, what I charged for my service in comparison to companies that would be equal to mine, my price was higher. But what was the value that my customer, that my consumer got from me that they didn't get from someone else? And so there were particular things that I added in to my service. For example, if I did an initial service on your property, again, I was in the pest control business, I threw in a follow-up 2 weeks later for free. So it may have looked like it was a higher in the beginning, but you were kind of getting a 2-for-1. And in 2 weeks, you come back, you do a follow-up. And really, it wasn't costing me anything to follow up. I was more or less doing inspection, making sure that there weren't any problems. So anyway, I knew what my value at that time. And so that's what I'm saying. What is your value? Are you priced in the market? Are you priced above the market? Are you priced below market? What is your value? What is your niche? Are you that specialized that you could charge more than your competition? Right? That's for the entrepreneurs and the business people. Now, if you are employed, how valuable are you to your company? And what avenues have you taken to make yourself an asset to your company? And I tell people, it doesn't matter whether you work in the fast food industry or whether you're sitting in an executive chair. You learn as much as you can about the business. Learn as much as you can about other jobs. Make yourself valuable because you are able to do more than one thing. If your job offers training, take the training. You say, well, maybe that's not exactly in your specific sphere of employment, but if you take that training, it may help you get into other doors. Again, now you're adding what? You're adding value to yourself. Right? A couple of more things. I'm not going to hold you long. One of the things that I was talking about in some previous episodes, we talked about wealth, but I want to define what wealth is from the original word, which was the W-E-L-E. The etymology of that word, the definition was well-being, happiness, and prosperity. Well-being, happiness, and prosperity, or you could say health, happiness, prosperity. So coming into a wealthy place It's not just about having more things, more stuff, more money, but it also refers to your well-being and it refers to your happiness. So if you are in a state or in a place, a job where you're unhappy, you're not going to be very motivated, and most likely you don't have a lot of value there. So you need to, one, probably change the attitude, because if you're not happy, I think in a situation like that, that even if you're not happy where you are, that you should not let people know that you're unhappy. Don't get caught up in the cliques in the workplace, talking to people that are disgruntled with the job situation, talking about the supervisors or boss. Don't get caught up in that situation. So I wanted to talk about this for a minute before I get off. That I remember looking at a statistic that there's only 10% of Americans that make $100,000 or more. Think about that for a minute. Only 10% of Americans make over $100,000 or more. Now, what makes them different? What makes them special? Well, in some instances, it is the education level, because the higher education level, it puts you in certain income brackets. But it's not limited to that. The majority of the billionaires that are out here now are tech billionaires, the new billionaires. Most of them never finished their education. So the income is not necessarily wrapped up in the education, although the education is very important. But to see that there's only 10% of Americans that make over $100,000 or more, and that's usually from maybe one particular means of income. There's probably their career affords them a salary of 100,000 plus. And so what I like to say to people is this: if you can't get that 100K, say that's a goal. If you can't get that 100K from one job, then that means you need to create another source. So there should be many sources of income, and which I would call the roadmap to 100K. So that means that you will have things that will bring income in. Some people say streams of income that begin to flow into the river of your life, that will cause you to begin to elevate your economic status to the point where you can become one of these 10%. And then a recent article I just saw last week, it actually had it dropped down to there was only 9% of Americans that made over $100,000 a year. Now, I mean, when you think about it, you're like, man, that's all? Yeah, that's all. And so, how valuable are you? You begin to appraise yourself, evaluate yourself, and begin to determine your wealth or your value by the qualifications that you have acquired through life, through experience, through training, through education. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting a little more education, getting a little more training, getting some certifications. It just takes a little more effort to add value. And then again, I talked about the streams. Say that you make $50,000, $60,000 a year. You get involved into what we sometimes call them side hustles or other businesses. Let's put it that way. Your own business that maybe would bring in another $5,000 in a year. So now you go from 60 to 65. Maybe there are some investments that you can invest in that will give you a return that will add to your value. And another thing is this also, it says that people pay for problems that you solve. So become a problem solver in your environment, in your workplace, in your job, in your business. How valuable are you? And that's something I want you to think about. Think about adding value to yourself. Appraise yourself properly or accurately. Put yourself in a position where you are in demand. Well, I tell you, I'm just going to wrap it up right there. Thank you for watching. This is Marc T May, and this has been Kickstart Your Life. And I want you to remember, you're never too young or too old to kickstart your life. Peace.